I was berating myself. Wow. What? You carelessly did a travel topics question session on the little green grass garden snake? My host is violently afraid of snakes, and you sat there in her kitchen on Zoom. You described how the little green grass garden snake slithered out of the pot the wife took in because they were expecting a cold snap that night in Sweetwater, Texas. You told the story of how the snake snuck under the couch and the wife screamed. Then her husband rushed into the living room to see what he could do. Even though he was in the shower and had rushed out naked, he was so compassionate. He got down on his hands and knees to look under the couch. Meanwhile, the family dog rushed in and cold-nosed him on the backside. He thought he had been bit by the snake, and he fell over. The drama points went up and out. The wife thought he had had a heart attack and called 911. I kept berating myself. You used that whole story during the travel topics question and answer, but people did not have a fair chance to practice their impromptu speaking. You made the question so long-winded. How could you do that? After the dilemma, you discovered that your story traumatized your host because of her fear of snakes, all because you never considered that some people do not like snakes. And to think, you were there as a guest in her home in Texas, no less, all the way from California. Sometimes speaking as a Toastmaster can get you into trouble. Or you can overcome your fear of speaking well, but then you forget to offer simple considerations. Boy, did I learn an important lesson. Don't think she will be asking me back as a guest soon, maybe never. All of this started because not only do I like to speak, but I like to travel. Vacations are a fun highlight of summer. I wanted to go to Boca Chica, Texas, where the rockets were being fired off. They were to fire one off the week that I visited there, but the event was delayed a few days. The following week, the rocket that was fired ended up exploding. Excuse me. Glad I was not there after all. As I progressed through my journey to Fort Myers, Florida, I had a chance to give this story a few more times. This green grass garden snake dilemma continued with the hazards of a broken leg. That happened because when the wife called 911, the emergency medical technicians came to take the husband out of a stretcher. That was when the snake came out from under the couch. The EMT was startled, dropped his end of the stretcher. That resulted in the husband breaking his leg. The wife, of course, was still concerned about the snake, so she called her neighbor. He offered to capture the snake and came over, armed with a rolled-up newspaper. After rummaging around under the couch, he was convinced that the snake was gone and told the wife, his neighbor. She was thrilled and sat back down on the couch to relax. While dangling her fingers between the cushions, she could feel the snake again. She screamed and then fainted. The neighbor was determined to revive her, so he began CPR. Now, about that time, the neighbor's wife returned from grocery shopping. She slammed the grocery bag of canned food into her husband's head when she saw him with his lips on the wife of the heart attack victim. He suffered from the bleeding of her blow that required stitches. All that racket revived the wife from her faint. When she saw her neighbor bleeding with his wife crying over him, she thought he had been bit by the snake. She called 911 again, then went back to the kitchen to get some whiskey to begin pouring it out down his throat. This was the can of whiskey that she used, the bottle. The police arrived due to the ruckus reported by their neighbors and were going to arrest them all. The wife quickly explained that it was just a little green grass garden snake that had caused all the problems. At that moment, the snake appeared out from under the couch again, proving her point. One of the policemen immediately shot at the snake. He missed, but hit the leg of an end table instead, which knocked the lamp off and broke the light bulb. When the bulb broke, the drapes caught on fire. The other policeman attempted to put it out, but fell out of the window and landed on the family dog outside on the lawn. The dog was so rattled, he ran into the oncoming car, and the car tried to avoid the dog and crashed into the parked police car instead. While the drapes were burning, the neighbors called the fire department. The fire truck approached. They quickly raised the ladder. The ladder took all the overhead wiring, which demolished the phone and electrical reception for the 10-square city block area. The good news was they got the fire out and brought peace back once more. Then, soon, the house got repaired. The two men returned from the hospital, the dog came home, and the police car was replaced. All was just fine. Not long afterwards, one morning, the Sweetwater couple were listening to the news. The weather reported that a cold snap was coming through. The wife asked her husband if he thought it would be a good idea to bring the potted plants in. That was when he stood up and then he shot her. The reason I'm telling this story is because all of this happened when the little green grass garden snake showed up. He never had a chance to bite anyone. He was just trying to enjoy being out of the cold. He was not a rattlesnake, but his presence resulted in the death of a life. It reminded me of how people are afraid to speak in front of an audience. The audience never bites, but people experience the sting of 1,000 imaginings and die 1,000 deaths out of fear. But not one bit of a bite happens. Franklin Delano Roosevelt, in his inaugural address of 1933, said, "The only thing we have to fear is fear itself." He was addressing our country in the economic upheaval brought about by the Great Depression. We all have something that we believe passionately about. What can we do to overcome the fear of letting other people know? Do not let that snake of fear bite. Get out there and tell people what you are all about. Remember, the snake bite that prevents you from sharing just a bit. Do not let your passion to speak die. Instead, speak it. Speak it into life. Speak in your own life and have the best fun you can imagine. Thank you.